Welcome here to the session on accelerating innovation for your SAP workloads on Google Cloud. I think folks are still rolling in, but we'll get started. My name is Venkat Gattamneni. I lead product management alongside my colleagues Mike and Souvik here in the audience here. We'll be running the session, and as you can tell, we have a packed session with a lot of speakers. In fact, we're very excited about 3 of our customers joining here on stage, talking to you guys about how they are accelerating their digital transformation on the platform. Now, from a goals perspective, what we hope to accomplish in this session is, so we'll be discussing why customers are choosing Google Cloud for their SAP workloads. We'll talk a little bit about our capabilities. We'll talk about some new exciting announcements we're going to make here today. We're also going to hear, of course, from the 3 spotlight customers. We're going to hear from Vodafone. I don't think they need an introduction. They're the largest telecom in the world. We're going to hear from Indigo Books. They're the largest book and music retailer in Canada. We're going to hear from Mercado Libre, who are also the largest e-commerce. They have the largest e-commerce ecosystem in LATAM, right? All of these customers have very interesting stories to share with you about what they have done in terms of accelerating their journey when it comes to SAP workloads on Google Cloud, and we're able to get a lot of good business outcomes from the move to Google Cloud. And time permitting, we'll do some Q&A at the end. So first, I want to take a moment and acknowledge and recognize, celebrate thousands of customers who brought their SAP workloads to the platform and are undergoing real digital transformation. All of these customers, they come from different verticals, finance, retail. They come from different geographies all over the world. But one thing that's unique across and rather common across all of these folks is the business outcomes they're able to drive by bringing their workloads onto the platform. Just as examples, we have ATB Financial, who was able to improve the time from data to insights by 117 times after they moved their ERP systems into the Google Cloud and after leveraging BigQuery on the platform. We have a company called One Network Express. It's a Singapore-based shipping company. It used to take them a full day to get data into their on-premises data warehouse. Now it takes them minutes to basically load that same data into BigQuery and get to insights. We have companies like Home Depot. We have companies like Southwire here, who are one of the biggest manufacturers of cable here in the United States. It used to take them weeks, if not months, to get infrastructure simply for SAP upgrade projects. It takes them literally minutes to accomplish the same thing now in Google Cloud. And you'll hear more from our customers on their amazing stories and what they've been able to accomplish on Google Cloud in a little bit. Now, one of the things we are very proud of here in Google Cloud is our long-standing partnership with SAP. That goes back many, many years of tight collaboration between both the teams at an engineering level, product level, and such. SAP actually deploys and develops their applications on Google Cloud. In fact, a number of SAP applications like Ariba, SuccessFactors, etc., run on Google Cloud today. And the advantage of all of that is that you get a top-notch experience for your applications as you bring them onto Google Cloud. We, in fact, have tight collaboration between both the engineering teams. They influence our roadmap and vice versa between both the teams. Mike here in a little bit will talk about the comprehensive certifications we have on the platform. And no matter what modernization path, by the way, you may choose for your SAP journey on the platform, whether it's SAP RISE, whether you're doing clean core innovations with S4HANA on top of SAP BTP, all of these are very well supported on the platform thanks to the collaboration between the teams here at Google Cloud and SAP. Of course, earlier this year, we announced the partnership between SAP DataSphere, BigQuery, and Vertex AI. Highly encourage you to attend those sessions. We won't be covering that here. I just wanted to give a big shout out to that partnership as well. Now, the benefit of all of this is that you as customers get to enjoy a platform that is battle tested by SAP for SAP workloads. Let me take a second to tee up why customers are choosing Google Cloud for the digital transformation for SAP applications. First and foremost, it's about the performance and reliability. The fact of the matter is the innovation that you're going to do on the SAP application is very tightly correlated with the performance and the reliability of the underlying infrastructure. And that's what we often hear from customers. Mike, in a bit, will talk about the special capabilities that we have on the platform that lets you run your applications, perform in a way that is industry leading, and your uptime that you get from the platform is also industry leading. Number two is security. We often hear from customers that they're bringing their SAP applications and they get much better levels of security on Google platform than they were able to get before. I think if you guys tuned into the keynote this morning, you heard a lot of good stats on how Google Cloud is sitting apart from the rest of the hyperscalers when it comes to the number of threat vectors we see, the amount of vulnerabilities we see on the platform, etc. All of that you get to take advantage of as you bring your SAP applications and run them securely on the platform. Last but not the least, it is a launch pad for innovation. As you bring your SAP workloads onto the platform, we know that you have a lot of business data in those applications. By easily extending that data and taking advantage of data analytics, AI services on the platform, we've seen a lot of customers be able to innovate much, much faster on top of Google Cloud, and we'll definitely hear that from our customers here as well. With that, let me hand this over to Mike, who'll talk a little bit about the infrastructure capabilities on the platform. Mike?
Thank you, Venkat. As Venkat mentioned, we've spent a lot of time making sure that you can run your SAP applications on Google Cloud. So what we spend most of our time is making sure we have that solid foundation. We have over 150 certifications. Actually, it's approaching 200 certifications that cover SAP NetWeaver, SAP HANA, Business One, and also running other SAP applications like ASE, Business Objects on Google Cloud. So we've spent a lot of times working with SAP's engineering and certification team to ensure that you have that robust infrastructure to scale. We have 38 regions that you can deploy your SAP deployments on Google Cloud. In fact, we're very proud to say that every time we launch a new region, like we did last week with our new Berlin region, I should say, is that it's available day one to run your SAP workloads. So it's something that we've been working heavily on. So what do we actually deliver? We support running from their smallest systems, which you can see here on the left side is our N2 family and N1 family. So this is really our smaller deployments for really up to about 1 terabyte of memory. We certify for OLTP. So this slide is representing the OLTP workloads that you run for HANA. We also have our memory-optimized virtual machines, which are M1s, M2s, and M3 systems. So you can scale from 1 terabyte up to 12 terabytes. And we also have solutions for those customers that need to go beyond 12 terabytes, which is our 18 and 24 terabytes. And in fact, Mercado Libre will talk later. I want to congratulate them on their go-live of 24 terabytes, their second 24 terabyte go-live this last weekend, so that went smoothly. When we certified the 24 terabytes, we worked heavily to make sure that we deliver the most SAPs that you can do. And obviously, if you know SAPs, they're how you size your benchmark of your system, your S4HANA, so it's memory and SAPs. And with 892K SAPs, we actually set an industry world record for Intel that we still maintain. We also are able to support storage, and this is something that was announced today, up to 7.2 gigabytes per second with HyperDisk Extreme. So this basically means you can bring your workloads and grow on Google Cloud. Now, obviously, this is scale up. We have also the need for sometimes to go to scale out. So scale out for your S4HANA systems or your OLAP use cases. So this graph we're showing here is that we can scale from 1 terabyte OLAP with multiple nodes together, so to 16 terabytes, all the way up to 192 terabytes, which is something we co-innovated with SAP on the first customer you see here, which is PayPal. So this is very much specific to an S4HANA use case that's a combined OLAP and OLTP use case. And this is where they're live currently with 8 times 12 terabyte nodes. In addition, we worked with SAP, Rise with SAP, to have their first scale-out customer go live on Google Cloud, which is Mahindra & Mahindra, which was basically moving from their on-premise system, and they were moving it, and they needed more CPU than our 12 terabyte system, so they actually scaled to run on multiple ones of our memory-optimized VMs. And then finally, Alphabet, Google's parent, runs also SAP, and also a couple of weeks ago, went live on scale-out. So we also, if you say, eat our own dog food, drink our own champagne, we actually build solutions. They're our customer zero, and we work heavily with that team to bring the innovations we work with them to you, the customer. So we spend a lot of time making sure that we have the right mission-critical abilities that, we get our payroll as employees, so we make sure those systems run and scale. We also, We also have a number of announcements that we wish to go through today. So these ones some of them were mentioned in the keynote, some of them were mentioned in other sessions here. We announced last week, I should say a couple of weeks ago, the C3 Intel Sapphire Rapids-based, so this is the 4th generation Intel CPU, and we're the first cloud to certify SAP HANA and NetWeaver to run on it. So this is really built for the very CPU-intensive workloads you have for your combined OLTP, OLAP use cases. We're also announcing here at the event the latest generation of our AMD processor-based servers, and this is the C3D, based on the 4th generation AMD platform. In addition, storage, as I kind of alluded to, we are announcing a new type of storage called Hyperdisk Balanced, which will be a successor for a lot of our SAP use cases for PD Balanced and PD SSD, which is our low and medium offering for our block storage solution. In addition, Hyperdisk Extreme, which already was the fastest cloud solution, native cloud solution available at 5 gigabytes per second, we're now also releasing that this will be available at 7.2 gigabytes per second. And that's really critical for customers that have large SAP systems that need to load data into memory very fast, like maintenance windows, or if you have a HANA restart, where you're not able to reload data from memory, you have to load it back from disk. So something we're working heavily on these very large systems. And as I mentioned, we also have 38 regions and 12 more planned in the next couple of years. Moving on, we are also announcing something which I think is very critical to our SAP customers. As Venkat mentioned, it's mission-critical applications, it's reliability. We've worked for a number of years on improving the reliability, introducing things like memory poisoning recovery, because we have a lot of DIMMs in these large memory servers, and how do we actually successfully ensure that if there's a DIMM failure, our application does not crash. With all that work we did, we're actually introducing a new SLA. We're going from 995 to 9995 for our large in-memory servers. So this is a great, significant leap over what we see the competition and our work on engineering and reliability and being able to provide that as a higher SLA for you. We're also increasing all of the smaller ones. So if you saw before, that's the M on the prior slide, the M1s, M2s, M3s will all go to 395. And in addition, those N2s that you saw before and all the other ones you run on application servers, all the AMD, we're also increasing that from 995 to 999. So this is the confidence that we have in our delivery of mission-critical infrastructure for your applications. And then in addition, we also are working a lot on the tooling for you to deploy your SAP systems. So we have a lot of Terraform templates. You can use Terraform and Ansible to actually automate the deployment of your infrastructure. What we've done is also deliver this guided UI that you can automatically configure all of these Terraform scripts. You can also not just deploy the storage and the infrastructure, you can deploy the operating system, and you can also provide the installation files for SAP, HANA, or your application servers. We'll install this as well, and also we'll configure HA for you based on our best practices. So that's something that we spend a lot of time to really accelerate your deployments and making sure that you deploy it based on best practices and from our knowledge, and also what we've learned with running systems with SAP and Alphabet. Okay, I've talked a lot here, so I'd like to say let's have a customer talk. So I'd like to introduce Willie to come on stage, our CIO of Vodafone. So Willie, will you join us on stage and share your journey?
That video was to wake up after lunchtime, so I hope that was nice. Thank you very much for the opportunity, really appreciate. I've got a great story to tell today. I only have 6 minutes, so it's going to be fairly brief. Happy to take questions afterwards. As you can see, Vodafone is a large network company, telco. We serve 300 million customers across 24 markets, and we're an SAP shop. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be standing here, right? So we've been a customer of SAP for many years, about 12 years or so. And as you can see, we run our finance, our SCM, our HR systems largely off this platform. And this story is about our journey. Over the last couple of years, we've also taken up a number of the SAP software as a service offerings like Ariba, Concur, SuccessFactors that runs across our whole enterprise. Looking back, and by the way, our ERP system is called Evo, so if I refer to Evo, that's our ERP system. We built up a very substantial ERP capability, servicing 125,000 desktop users, also increasingly mobile at that stage, 31,000, 56 million assets. And as you can see, one single ERP solution across all 24 markets. So that was, at that time, I think, a fairly aggressive decision to take, but in hindsight, a very good decision for Vodafone. It allows us to obviously run consistent processes in terms of global policies, human resources. We also run centrally from that point of view. So a very, very powerful capability. However, despite the fact that we'd upgraded fairly early to S/4HANA and saw of the associated benefits, there was no doubt that the organization, telcos being very, very dynamic, lots of mergers and acquisitions, that we had to think about business agility. How do we move faster? How do we actually sell and buy companies and put them onto this platform much, much faster? Also volumes, as you can imagine, increasing volumes on the platform, need to keep up with technology changes, and then increasingly we saw workarounds as well. At this stage, completely on-prem platform, so one could say, if you look at that slide, clearly cloud's the answer. We also built up a very good strategic relationship with Google, so it was a very sensible decision for us to actually go to the next step. We got a little bit of a help from our chief technology officer, and he gave us a challenge to say if we can move Evo to the cloud without any business disruption, we could literally move anything to the cloud. And that's exactly what we did. We took up the challenge about 2 years ago, and we started the planning associated with this very ambitious program. 3 very important phases, and the first phase that I'm talking about now, you could argue, is the mechanistic piece, and that was to move the workloads from our on-prem infrastructure and to modernize that onto GCP. The very more important and more significant next steps would be to leverage our strategic partnership with Google. We've built with Google a very substantive Vodafone data ocean across the enterprise. And clearly that gives us an opportunity to move to the third phase around cross-enterprise insights and automation, and also the associated innovation that's so critical for Vodafone. So our focus up till now has been on phase 1. We're now going into phase 2, and then phase 3 with everything that we heard today as well and what's been spoken about. We think our positioning is really, really excellent. So let's talk about the program. I think all of you have seen this before. As you can imagine, it was a phased program. We didn't do all of the big complex stuff first. In fact, we left that for last. So you can see we had an initial sprint to do the basic setup, make sure we got the teams in place. We were very lucky, and I'll talk about it later as well, is that we have very, very deep technical expertise that we built over many years, and that helped us immensely to de-risk this journey. So our first wave 0 was sort of our toe in the water, if you want, from that point of view. So it was a relatively small number of workloads, also not that risky. By the time we got to wave 3, which was not long ago, about 2 months ago, that's when we really did our very complex work, which is our 700 interfaces into all of our markets' legacy backend systems. And so clearly that we had to manage that very, very carefully. By the time we got to wave 3, the machine was well oiled, and we could actually really execute this with 0 business impact. And it sounds like a marketing headline, but I can truly say I didn't get one escalation from anybody in finance or HR or even SCM. In fact, the statement that I got from the head of SCM in Luxembourg, he says, well, he didn't even know that we were doing this. We should have told him. But just shows you it was completely seamless from an end user point of view. Some of the benefits, so clearly At the end of the day, it's all about benefits. The good news is we are definitely seeing our business case assumptions being met in practice. Also, you see the resiliency around the availability. Sustainability, we're super excited about what we can do there. We're going to decommission in the next 2 months more than 400 services in our on-prem environment, which we feel is absolutely doable. Also, innovation, more responsive. I did say that that is one of our challenges. And then the important one is customer satisfaction and revenue. So you can see the less than 5 days in terms of month-end closure. For our financial director and our CEO, that's a really, really critical measure. And we can do that consistently now across 24 markets to get the final numbers out, which I think is very important. So some of our key success factors and learnings, I think experience and skills really helped us immensely, both from a business point of view, lots of continuity around finance, HR, SCM involvement over many years, same technically. Value management, a good, sensible business case that underpins everything that we do. Then the solid technical foundation, S4. So I think that was a very good intermediate step for us before going into GCP. And then strong partnership and sponsorship at all levels. I have to call out that I believe, had a very good partnership between SAP, Accenture, our SI partner, as well as Google, and supported by very strong executive sponsorship. I think that's a point of continuity over the last 12 years. Our FD, Margarita Del Valle, is now the group CEO, I think helped us immensely to show us the true north and be consistent. So I think if you put all those factors together, we were put in a position where we could live up to the expectation and challenge that our CTO gave us. And I'm very happy to say a program well executed, and we're now ready to go to the next phases of really exploitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Willie, so much for that story, and it's very, very inspiring and educational at the same time. I'll talk a little bit about, how earlier I mentioned, right, one of the reasons that customers use the platform or choose our platform is for security. Let me kind of like tee that up a little bit before inviting Daniel on stage, where he'll share a story about how they are able to securely run their applications on top of Google Cloud. Now, when it comes to security, that's a very, very important mission for us. And I think of security in 2 layers. One is at the foundation, things that you guys automatically benefit from what we are doing on the platform. The fact that, we have the world's largest private network basically means that your data spends less time exposed to threat vectors that come from, your data being exposed on the internet. The fact that there's end-to-end encryption by default on Google Cloud. All these are foundational things that you automatically benefit from the platform being very, very secure. On top of that, there are a number of services and capabilities that we expose to you to run your applications much more securely on the platform. One such example is the Security Command Center, which lets you continuously monitor your SAP applications on the platform. The other one, and highly differentiated, is assured workloads. Chances are that your mission-critical business applications that rely on SAP stack are in some sort of you're in a regulatory environment, or maybe you have data residency requirements that you have to comply with. Assured Workloads is a product that lets you do precisely that without actually having to select what I would call GovCloud version of the cloud. You can use the same Google Cloud region as you would for your non-compliant workloads and put those applications, frankly, under the same account, just in different folders. And all of the projects in a folder that is tagged with a certain assured workload governance set of controls get compliance. And of course, the other ones in that account, that are not tagged that way, they don't get that governance. So you can really mix and match your workloads, those that require compliance and those that don't require compliance. And this makes your management of these workloads much more easy and reduces your overall TCO. As a side benefit, even if you were to choose assured workloads for your compliance needs, the SAP certifications that Mike mentioned earlier, all of the infrastructure that you choose, naturally carry those certifications, and you get support from SAP and Google for your SAP applications on that front. Today, we got 12 plus compliance governance controls, all the way from, if you're in the US, FedRAMP is a big one, both moderate and high, ITAR, and across the world, this shows you a map of the 12 plus compliance programs we have, and we're always expanding that. So if this is of interest, please do talk to us, and we can, of course, we always are adding more and more regimes and governance controls to this service. So I'm also going to announce a couple of new things we are very excited to launch here at Next. The first one is Workload Manager SAP security best practices. So if you've used Workload Manager product already, what it does is it lets you scan your SAP application environment and checks against best practices that both Google and SAP architects have put together in how to best run these applications in a reliable fashion. What we're doing right now is to add security best practices to that list. So in this first iteration, we have controls for better password management, access control. We check against critical vulnerabilities for your SAP applications. And all of these things you get to make sure that your SAP applications are running much more securely on the platform. Highly encourage you to take that sort of preview service for a spin. The next thing we're announcing is the next generation firewall that's previewing today. So this is actually going to be talked in depth in a networking session. So if this is of interest, highly recommend attending that session and to get a download on what that service can do. It's a fully distributed, globally available service, powered underneath by the likes of Palo Alto technologies. And there's a lot of AI and ML capabilities built into it. So it detects a lot of threats and protects your applications with the firewall. All right, so enough of me talking about security. I want to now invite Daniel onto the stage and how they are taking benefit of the platform to secure their applications. Daniel.
Okay, hi everyone. So basically, before just going into the detail of security, I just want to put you into the context of our environment. So basically, Indigo. What's Indigo? Indigo is actually I would say comparable for the people in the States. It's comparable to Barnes & Noble, but we operate in Canada. So it's basically Indigo is a $1.1 billion company. Keep in mind that it's a Canadian dollars, so lower down the numbers a little. Basically, we have few environments from an SAP point of view. We have EWM, ECC, BW, SCM, PI, and the gateway. So basically, this is our environment. We have whether we have a sandbox, a QA environment, a production environment, development environment. So we're roughly talking about 65 servers. And I just wanted for everyone to fully understand what is it that we're dealing with here before we do talk about the event that hit Indigo on February 8th. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember very well. As you can imagine, we went through a huge cyber breach. I've just listed a few of the elements in there. You'll see that we lost over more than 930,000 files. It was a double exfiltration type of attack, ransomware. So not only did the threat actors took our data, they also encrypted everything and destroyed every single platform that looked like a storage unit. So you can imagine the damage. So even in our case, we have both. We have Google and Azure, so GCP and Azure. And in our case, they actually went on Azure and they had plenty of fun, I have to say. They opened up our vault. They actually took all our data, basically, all our privileged information. And let's keep in mind that they were in the systems as of January 16th. So about 24 days where they had the chance to find out exactly our environment, what is it that needs to be attacked, from which angle. But the main reason why I wanted to talk to you about all this is because there's also some positive about it. The first one is I'm here to talk to you about this. I haven't been let go, which is usually the case for a CISO or a CTIO. But there's few other nice stories. And the first one is, where are the 930,000 files? So let me just explain. When they took the data, what they did is that they created a Google bucket. which makes perfect sense as we're Google customers. So we had the chance at Indigo to be able to reach out to our partners at Google. That was amazing. This is the way actually we talked to Google Canada. Google Canada talked to Google US. The idea was to put a legal hold on these buckets so that the threat actors wouldn't be able to recuperate those data. And they actually involved the FBI, and with all these people around the table, we managed to put a legal hold, and up to today, the data is still not available on the dark web, which is really a key factor that helped us at Indigo. The other point that I wanted to talk to you about is how many systems in GCP got compromised. Crazy enough, the answer is none. So we have roughly 1,200 servers at Indigo, and about 900 of them got compromised. None of them got compromised from the Google environment. And the main reason, and I have to really give a nice kudos to both Google and Axia, we at Indigo did not have any experience on this platform, so we relied on our partners to build that landing zone, to secure it, and actually it paid off. Again, going back, they knew, so the threat actors were in the system as of January 16th, and they still did not manage within 3 weeks to be able to get into the Google environment. So this is just to reinforce what we've heard this morning in the keynotes, that the Google environment is a secure environment. And the last one that I wanted also to mention is the fact that we were completely down. We actually were down for about 28 days with no e-commerce website. Our stores were impacted, so many different systems. So the reaction, or my reflex in this case, was really to reach out to both Axia and Google, Axia being our partner. And basically, the idea was to say, since everything is down, why don't we move to this new production environment? The due date, or the planned date, was to go live at mid-March, and actually, because of the help of everybody around the table, we actually were able to go live early March, which is basically something that you cannot even imagine, going live while you're in the middle of a crisis. And we actually succeeded with the help of our partners. So that's really something that we've learned a lot from. And if by any chance, I understand that we don't have much time to talk, but if you want to discuss about any of the things, about the breach itself, or the partnership that we went through with Google and Axia, I'll be more than happy to discuss it about after the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Story. I'm sure there's a lot to be learned, and please feel free to reach out to Daniel after the session if you have any questions. So we're on to the final sort of third pillar that we talked about earlier, that a lot of customers are bringing their applications onto the platform to innovate, right? The thing about innovation is it's really about accelerating insights, from data in order to make much faster business, decisions. That's really at the heart of any innovation. On the platform, what we have done is to make sure that you get to very easily take advantage of the other Google services, so you can marry your SAP applications and systems with the rest of the Google services, so you can drive innovation with your landscapes. One of the ways we've done that is to make sure that we have things like BQ Connector, which easily lets you take advantage of BigQuery alongside with your SAP data. Another thing we've done is we have SAP Cortex, which is really a collection of data models. These are all pre-built data models where you can leverage the data that you have in your SAP systems and drive much faster insights. We also recently launched ABAP SDK. So if you have developers in your organizations who are familiar with ABAP, you can take advantage of that and easily build against your, the rest of the Google services. Just to kind of like put things in perspective, so we talked about a number of differentiators and capabilities on infrastructure side. A lot of that basically helps you to get your applications up and running, to cut down the time for SAP upgrades, etc. on the platform. You can do that, obviously, but on top of that, we have a vast array of cross-alphabet services, Google services, that you can take advantage of in order to drive that innovation that you want. And all of that put together is what really drives the ultimate business outcomes. You heard a number of great stats from both the speakers, customers so far in the ability to kind of like drive their digital transformation and business outcomes. I'm very pleased to invite onto the stage now Mercado Libre. We're going to talk about their story of modernization and innovation and what they were able to accomplish with Google Cloud. Pablo and Diego.
Thank you, Venkat. Okay, hi everyone. For those of you coming from Latin America, I'm pretty sure you already know what Mercado Libre is. But for the rest of you, Mercado Libre's mission is to give access to commerce and financial services to transform the life of millions of people in Latin America. Today, I want to share some figures with you so you can better understand why data volume is our biggest concern. During the first quarter, we have provided services to more than 50 million people in the commerce side and more than 60 million people on the financial services. All these transactions, more than 400 transactions per second, end up somehow on our SAP system. So now Diego will explain how our subsystem handles this data volume and how Google is helping us going through this challenging endeavor.
Hi, everyone. I'm the technical manager for financial systems. Today, I'm going to tell you about our SAP architecture on Google Cloud. Our ecosystem is made up of 2 ERP systems. Our old ECC running on bare metal solution with 24 terabytes, and our new S4 system running on memory optimized compute with 12 terabytes of memory. These systems are interconnected with the rest of the SAP on-premise solution, and all systems were migrated from Azure in 5 months with a downtime less than 50 minutes. As you can see, we use 2 regions. In North Virginia, we have our production systems running on high availability. And in Central One, we have our disaster recovery site. We use HANA system replication to sync both regions. And a storage solution to move the archive data to maintain only 3 years on the systems. In terms of advantages, the optimized compute, network latency that 2 lowers better than other providers, and other technology advantages were very important before to make the decision to migrate on Google Cloud. To finish, for us, the partnership with Google is very important to continue working in new technologies, in new innovation to support our hypergrowth. So now, Pablo continue with the strategy analytics?
So one of the things we have realized by operating this kind of data volume is that when the user performs the apparently smaller task on the SAP side, they can easily jeopardize our entire system. So part of our strategy was to move the data out from SAP into our already existing data lakehouse. And for doing that, we are using SLT plus the Google BigQuery connector. So by doing this, we can import the data into our data lakehouse that resides on BigQuery and easily get from there both operational analytics and traditional analytics. And as you can see, we are moving now close to 26 billion records a month. So once the data is already there in SAP, we have to plane the data into an SAP-like table. And by doing this, our technical teams are allowed to perform all kinds of controls over the data in SAP because we are replicating near real time. After that, we also are using the Google Cortex framework as an accelerator, so we can easily transform these SAP tables into a business knowledge. And by doing that, we close the gap between the business user and the business terms. So they don't need to understand the complexity of the technical relationship between besides the SAP data tables model. By performing all of these, we have minimized the onboarding of the new tables from a few days at the beginning to only a couple of hours. So now even the onboarding is much faster, getting the insight from the data is much faster, and of course that adds a lot of value to the customer along with the other data already included in our data lakehouse. Thank you.